Ooh, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 131 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, and I'm joined, as always, by my bro from the same Momo, Lester Jones.
Hello, everybody.
And, of course, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have... Ooh, I got to edit this one a little bit for YouTube. The Ninth Wonder, Chocolate Thunder, living in sin and pushing that duty in. The vagina juice sipping, just the tipping, passing out his stick like bullets from John Wick, the phenomenal AJC.
Speaking of John Wick, my mic sounds weird now. But speaking of John Wick, that movie's preview, we saw it recently before Ant-Man Quantamania.
Right.
And, looks good, you know?
Yeah, they just had like a new trailer.
Bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll just say I'm not going to go watch it until you both pay me $5 for making me watch Quantumania.
It's coming out soon, March 23rd, I think.
Well, as Lester just ruined, we did go watch Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantamania. So we're going to parlay our usual, small talk nonsense and get right into reviewing the movie. Let me see. Oh, I forgot to look it up on Rotten Tomatoes. But guys, usually what we do for these reviews is just kind of a surface level breakdown, non-spoilery of what we thought about it, and then we'll go into a more spoiler-filled plot synopsis breakdown. Now I got to say, so off the bat on Rotten Tomatoes here, the movie is at a 48%. And I would just say, like, for myself, like, don't let that scare you off from seeing the movie. Because I like, even though, and we'll get to it, I think we all kind of felt this movie was in the kind of so-so territory. But it's a lot better than a lot of Marvel movies. Like, I can think of off the top of my head, like Iron Man 3, Thor 2, The Incredible Hulk, Ant-Man 2. Like, it's better than all of those. And even, like, I think Eternals is, like, the lowest rated one, and it's better than all of those, too. Yeah. So, I don't know. You can't really always go by just the Rotten Tomato score. But anyway, let's get into it. So the official synopsis reads as thus. Superhero partners Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne return to continue their adventures as Ant-Man and the Wasp. Together with Hope's parents, Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym, and Scott's daughter, Cassie Lang, the family finds themselves exploring the quantum realm, interacting with strange new creatures, and embarking on an adventure that will push them beyond the limits of what they thought possible. The movie was directed by Peyton Reed. It stars Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Scott Lang. Evangeline Lily is Hope Van Dyne, a.k.a. the Wasp. Jonathan Majors is Kang the Conqueror. Bill Murray is Lord Krylar. Kathryn Newton is Cassie Lang, and Michelle Pfeiffer is Janet Van Dyne. Okay, yeah, guys, without spoilers, what was kind of your surface level thoughts of this movie? I guess we'll start with the biggest critic first.
Did they not mention Michael Douglas?
I mean, Rotten Tomatoes does this thing where they list so many, and then it's like, oh, you can hit the arrow and see all cast and crew. Okay.
I'm just going to say, he seems like a big name, right?
He was the next guy on the list.
I mean, they had definitely some very talented people. They had some big names.
Yeah, a great cast. But your thoughts on the movie?
I mean, we mentioned this the other day, but like some of it kind of feels like Star Wars-y.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't know. You just have like these kind of elaborate cities, and you have these like animals that are like two animals that you stick together.
Right.
And, I don't know, just some of that stuff. Like you mentioned, there's like cantina, and there's just a bunch of different types of aliens mixing with humans. It just kind of had that feel, but I guess they're both Disney properties, so.
It is weird because, yeah, even though it's like supposedly like if we shrunk down into the carpet right now, we'd be in like this outer space type of thing.
Right, yeah.
Which, I mean, you would be seeing like weird like paramecium type things and like those like, what are they called, bear?
Yeah, I guess those would be like enormous to them.
Yeah. But like, would it look like this movie? No. Where this straight up just looks like they're on like different planets and stuff. You know?
Well, what's weird is like you shrink down enough and you end up in a specific place, like in the quantum realm. Like you're not just like so like you shrink down here and you go into the carpet or something, like you still end up in that one particular place in the quantum. You don't end up in like some other part of it or whatever. Like because Hope Van Dyne, we'll talk about this later, but she
Right.
goes to the same place twice.
Yeah, which seems a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah, it seemed like it'd be absolutely enormous.
it'd be like infinite.
You like
basically.
move over a fraction, it seems like you'd be like an infinity away,
Yeah.
basically.
I know, that's why it seems kind of strange that they always go to the same place. Yeah. Now I know you never saw the second movie, and like you weren't even sure if you ever saw the first.
I don't think
movie.
I saw either of them.
So coming in from that perspective, like what did you think of the character? I assume like since you watched Avengers and stuff, you had at least seen like the Ant-Man character like make an appearance. In
Yeah,
those
he's
movies.
been around.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I always feel like he's a straight man, so he needs somebody to play off of, kind of. I don't know. That's not my impression of him as an actor.
You think of Paul Rudd as more of a straight man than like
Yeah.
the comedy guy, or like
I mean, they give him some joke lines once in a while, but yeah, I don't know. I've always thought of him as a straight man.
I mean, he plays straight man sometimes too. Like, you know, somebody makes a joke about him being Spider-Man or Ant-Man or whatever, and he's like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, he's also silly too. He's got his silly parts to him.
One thing, well, it felt weird to me is because, like, so their family is living there, and it's him and the Wasp is his girlfriend, I guess,
right.
his daughter, and then his parents,
Her parents.
Her parents.
her parents.
Yeah.
Okay, her parents. That actually makes a little bit more sense, but it seems like none of them communicate anything with him because, like, his daughter and the granddad have done like
Well, maybe we should say that
centuries worth of like Nobel Prize winning projects in the basement
Yeah.
without telling anybody.
Let's save that for the more spoilery stuff. What about you, AJ? Just surface level. How do you like this movie?
I always say the same thing, man. Like just because I have trust in what Marvel can do at the end of all of this. Like with Phase 1, I wasn't impressed with Marvel's movies, but then when they got to Phase 4, they tied it all together and it looked good. And I think this is like their new Phase 1, right? Phase 5, the beginning of it,
Right.
And I think towards the end of it, they'll have put it all together. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping
I mean,
Lightning Strikes Twice.
Like you're saying, that's the hope.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, they got to do some stuff along the way that's better than this, because this is like a sunk cost prison. You're like, it's going to pay off someday.
Right,
And you're
yeah.
just like, I'm going to keep throwing money at it.
It's like gambling.
And then you're like, Marvel lost.
I wasted 5 years.
I mean, I don't consider this movie like a total loss like that. Like,
Right.
I did enjoy watching it well enough. It's firmly in that like middle pack of Marvel movies where you go, yeah, that was okay. Maybe I'll revisit it one day. Maybe I won't. But like it's
Yeah, it seemed kind of like family friendly in a little ways.
right. I will say like this movie, and this is true of a lot of Marvel and big effects laden movies. Almost, and you were talking about this last night when we watched the movie, and I totally agree. Like almost everything in this movie is artificial. Like you can just tell it's all like
Yeah.
green screen. It's all
You can tell they're pasted over
right,
the environment. And also, they don't interact in the environment as well as, say, like Avatar.
right. Even though that's all like
Yeah, it's all CGI.
right.
But it feels like they're pasted on top of it. And they do, like, short little run sequences before, they're, like, off screen or whatever.
Right.
And you get, like, okay, green screen, green screen.
Right,
green
right.
screen. You don't get any of those, like, long shots. I felt like that's probably not true, but I kind of felt that sometimes. But
yeah, I think it would be nice maybe to have a bigger mix, like practical with like digital like trimmings. Because with a movie like this, the whole movie seems artificial, and you can kind of tell.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much 100%. Which I don't know how you'd mix it, but
That's true. I did. I did. noticed too, because like, of course, it's a Marvel movie, so you sit through the end credits and just seeing like the amount of like FX studios, like this FX studio, this one, and just names, blocks and blocks and blocks of names, and you're like, holy cow! They actually just announced the Marvels, which is like the next Marvel movie.
Yeah.
They delayed from summer to November, and like they didn't mention why, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's just like, you know, these FX studios are booked up and they're having trouble like getting all the
It could be. They're really
post production work.
And those Marvel shit, like Miss Marvel, that's like heavy on the CGI too. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure that has a lot of lasers shooting out of fists and whatnot.
yeah.
But yeah, just basically to summarize, I like the movie. But it is definitely mid tier. But it's I would not classify it as rotten. I guess it's just okay. Okay. With that being said, are you guys ready to get into spoiler country?
Let's do it.
So because a lot of times we do these reviews like right out of the movie theater, and we just kind of like go off. I had some time today since we watched it yesterday, so I did like as best I could remember some of the basic plot points, which I'll go through. But I'll rely on you guys to fill in any blanks. So we start off the movie with Janet Pym, that's Michelle Pfeiffer's character. In the past, when she was stuck in the quantum realm, she sees like a crashing ship in the background. So she goes to investigate. She's attacked by these like little creatures. Like she like blows up two of them. One of them's about to get her, and then it gets blown up. And we see that it's this guy who we know because we watched Loki, of course, is Kang, Jonathan Majors. But he seems to be crash landed there, and he's just like wondering like where is he, you know. So then it cuts forward to the present day, where we get Paul Rudd is kind of living his daily life, and we're getting his narration that we find out is basically he wrote a book, and this is like him speaking the words of the book basically to this group of people. He seems like he's basically happy with his life, but maybe that it lacks adventure. Is that kind of what you guys are getting out of it?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. He's becoming like kind of complacent. You know, his daughter starts complaining about that he's not doing enough.
Right. It's like he had his adventure with the Avengers or whatever, but like now what?
Yeah.
And he's just like living his life, and she thinks maybe he could be doing more.
Right.
Speaking of that, like, so yeah, he's talking to this group of people, reading his book at the bookstore. He gets a phone call. Turns out his daughter Cassie got arrested. So they go get her out of jail, and then they're all like eating dinner at their house. And so like they do this thing where like I thought was kind of silly. So they buy like a small pizza, and then he uses like his technology to make like a big pizza, and he's like, "Oh, I'm saving money." But if the truth is, if they invented this technology, they'd be like filthy rich.
Yeah.
Like they'd be living in a mansion. Money would not be a problem with these.
I mean, he owns Pym Industries, right? Like,
right. And they're like living in this like regular house, but you figure they got to be rich, and they even. But maybe they're like trying to play the modest card, because they even show like they introduce the Wasp and how like she's using the technology to like for food production and to make the world a better place. She's like this big like philanthropist or something. But anyway, yeah, we find out that Cassie was arrested like one other time, and then like you were mentioning, her and Hank Pym have been like working together. At one point, like she mentions like she's got a suit of her own, like an Ant-Man type suit.
Right. He didn't know it. It seemed like his girlfriend knew about it.
yeah.
Well,
I
because
was like, everybody just knows what's going on except him.
well, the blip happened or whatever, and he was like out of her life.
Oh, that's true.
Right. He
For
was gone for a
years.
while.
And so, and they mentioned that too, and he's trying to make up for lost time, kind of. So, like, there are things that happen in her life that he's not aware of. But then, like, I wrote, okay, she has a suit, and we find out she's yet another child genius in the Marvel Universe who invented a device that can send a signal to the quantum zone and basically map the quantum zone.
Right. So when they go down in the basement for this reveal, like the granddad also has like genius ants that are building like a
Yeah.
I don't know, some sort of like technological ant wonder. But yeah, through all of this, it's like not only has it been a secret to him apparently, like he's just learning about it, but also the grandma, she didn't know about it. Michelle Pfeiffer's character.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, don't do that.
I hated her character at the beginning of this movie. Like, so like, you know, this whole thing is going on, like they're showing off this little quantum project of theirs, and Janet, that's Michelle Pfeiffer's character, she's like freaking out, like, what is this, you know, what's it doing, who's it, you know, what's it, like, she's, you know, nervous about anything to do with the quantum realm. But the whole time she never talks to her family about the 30 years she spent away.
No, I wrote that down too somewhere here. Yeah, I wrote Janet refuses over and over to tell everybody about her past and what's going on.
Yeah.
That was something that annoyed me in this movie, because like this happens again and again. Like right at this beginning, like you know what Hope mentions, like, you know, you can't talk to us about what happened there. And she's like, oh, no. And then even once they get in, you know, pulled in, like there's several times where they're like, you got to tell us what happened. And, oh, there's no time.
Yeah.
You got to be quiet now or whatever, you know, and they just keep delaying it.
I mean, my assumption would be like for the worst. They'd be like, man, she was getting gangbanged for 30 straight years.
I mean, there was part of that with her and Bill Murray.
Yeah, we do find out her and Bill Murray.
And like during no time, whenever they were together, she never figured out that he was a scumbag.
In 30 years.
I mean, we'll get to that, but I think maybe the implication is like he turned more scummy after she left.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that.
Anyway, then the scene from the everyone probably saw in the trailer happened where they're all sucked into the quantum zone, like, and Michelle Pfeiffer was like, turn it off, but it was too late. So they all get sucked in there. They're all like shrinking down and stuff. And like, I guess they would have died here, except for the Wasp, because she can fly, is able to go catch Janet and Hank and save them. And then Paul Rudd is able to grow into, you know, giant man and catch Cassie so that she doesn't die. You know, it's been a while since I watched Ant-Man 2, but it's like, can Ant-Man not get the same wing technology as the Wasp? Because that seems like a handy
right.
thing.
That occurred to me as well. Another thing, when they're falling through all these like realms and there's like a million things flying past them all the time, I'm just like, you guys just fell through like a universe of shit and you didn't hit anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on?
Like a safe little passageway for them to go through.
That happens again later too, and we'll get to it, where like he's going to the center of like the ship's core or whatever,
yeah.
and he just conveniently misses like all the
Everything.
thing in the way, you know.
Another point is like the civilized ants get sucked in as well, which you need to know for later.
I even mentioned, I wrote, Hank's ant farm is sucked in, which comes into play later. So basically, once they get to ground,
It is kind of funny to just think is like this advanced ant farm is like, oh, what like stupid childish thing could make it look brilliant.
Anyway, once they hit the quantum zone, they're separated. Cassie and Scott are in one group, and then Hank, Janet, and Hope are in another group. So Cassie and Scott, like, Scott's like attacked by this weird like sun-looking creature that's also like this, like, I don't know, paramecium type thing, and like it's about to like chase him and get him, but then it like explodes. It's blown up by this weird like group of alien-looking guys that you also see in the trailer. And like this,
Well, the sun-looking thing was eaten by an even bigger monster.
Right, the giant amoeba.
And then that
Okay.
monster was killed.
so there's two of them. Okay, I forgot about that. Okay, but anyway, what's with the? You know what I thought was weird? So there's that prominent guy from the trailer that has like the like circular head. He's like, he kind of looks like maybe he has a sun head himself. I don't know, like.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then like he speaks later on and he has like an Australian accent, and I was like, that's weird.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Oh, you had like the laser beam. shit of his
laser
face.
beam head.
Laser face.
Yeah, laser face instead of taser face. But yeah, again, this very Star Warsy and like
Right.
a bunch of different looking alien type creatures here. So they're captured by this group, and they're forced to drink this red ooze that basically allows them to understand and communicate with everybody there, which I guess is kind of a cool idea.
I think it's better than like the actual Star Wars where everyone just speaks English.
Yeah. At least they try to like fix that.
You just need to drink this red ooze that's I guess part of that one gloopy guy's blood or something.
That's one thing I think is cool about like the Green Lantern rings is they like instantly do that. Like when someone talks, it instantly like translates it to the other person, so it's like seamless. I don't know if you guys want to talk much about like that alien group. I don't know. There's the one weird alien dude who I guess the ooze is derived from him, and he just keeps talking about like people's holes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to get in that, but to say that there's like a village of people, and they've been defeated by Kang before, and they're kind of like a ragtag bunch.
And they're led by like a warrior woman.
Yeah,
I think
there's
I
a warrior
wrote
woman.
that somewhere here. And like
They'll become part of like a rebellion.
also the black guy from The Good Place.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like he's like a
Chidi,
telepath.
yeah.
Yeah, he can read minds.
Yeah.
But he hates it.
That seems accurate.
Yeah. He's like, everybody's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote Janet refuses over and over to tell everybody about her past and what's going on. She prevents their team from being captured by a ship, like one of Kang's like scout ships or whatever. So she has this like weird knife fight with an alien creature, and because she wins it, they like agree to give her.
That is such a trope they do in movies.
I
like,
know.
Where they're friends, but they act like they're enemies, and they do that little fight, and then hug at the end. It's so,
a little overused. Yeah. Anyway, they're given like clothes that allow them to blend it in a little better, and also they're given this alien creature that can give them a ride. So Janet says she'll bring them to a man that can help them out. This is where I wrote like big Star Wars vibes as they see a bunch of different new alien creatures, including like the broccoli head man.
Broccoli.
Oh yeah, he hits on Hope.
Right.
Yeah.
So they go to this cantina bar. Janet has Hope and Hank drink a vial of the ooze so that they can understand everybody. They are introduced to Bill Murray, who used to have a relationship with Janet, and I wrote he immediately betrays them. Which, did you guys like number one? I'm kind of sad that they revealed like Bill Murray in the trailer, so there would at least be some sort of surprise to who this guy is. But whatever. Like once she said, "Oh, I'm bringing you to someone," I'm like, "Oh, that's where Bill Murray's going to come in." But then, did you guys like? I instantly thought like. He's going to betray him. I just, I never thought for a second that he wasn't going to betray them. So yeah, he immediately betrays them, and he tells them that a hunter named MODOK has been sent after Scott and Cassie. They end up fighting their. And also when he betrays them, like some of Kang's men show up, which are just these guys that have like blue masks that you can't see through.
Yeah, you see a lot of them.
A lot of them in the movie. They end up fighting their way out and stealing a ship. And Bill Murray is seemingly killed by an octopus that Hank enlarges with one of his PIM particles.
Well, like earlier, he drank one of those drinks that had one of those creatures in it, and he just like ate it.
Yeah.
And then so he I guess you get a little poetic justice there by enlarging one of them and letting them eat him.
So back in the alien tribe, Scott and the alien tribe are attacked by MODOK and Kang's men. We find out that MODOK is Darren Cross from the original Ant-Man film. And you guys talked about this yesterday. He looks very bizarre.
MODOK looks wild. Weird. I mean, I guess there's no way to make him look normal, but man, he looked weird. Yeah.
Well, I was a little later on in the movie, like they show where. Because in the first movie, like he gets all basically like crippled up and sent down to this dimension. But I'm like, did his head stay bigger than the rest of his body? Like, why is his head so big?
I just assumed this was part of like
Kang's doing it.
Kang, yeah.
And like, I was like, are his other limbs artificial or his own limbs? Because they're like,
I think those are his original limbs, probably just all broken and useless. Probably. I don't know.
He looks very freaky.
Every time like he has like that metal faceplate that goes down when he's fighting or whatever, and every time he goes up, I'm like, put it back down.
Yeah, I know. Just keep the.
It's like I don't want to see it.
And also, like, whatever they did, like, it doesn't really look like that actor.
Yeah, he looks
it's like distorted to fit in
and-
that space, and then like
Yeah,
it's hard to explain why it's wrong, but it's just it doesn't look right.
I mean, I guess MODOK's not supposed to look right, but I don't know if he's supposed to look like. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
it's definitely a bizarre effect. Cassie changes into her suit, and Scott teaches her the jump and tap technique, which I was like, what does that mean? Like, she shrinks down, jumps, and then taps the thing to grow bigger, and that gives momentum to give like a huge like uppercut or something?
I think she keeps like the same speed, but then it gets
I think she like taps and does this at the same time,
And it
so,
makes like more momentum impact.
Yeah.
And so then Scott, Cassie, and that warrior woman who kind of leads that tribe are all captured. Maybe some other people too. I wasn't entirely sure. Okay, now this was a part where I couldn't remember exactly. Like, I know Janet finally tells the group about Kang, but did they go somewhere in the ship first, like before she tells that story?
probably because they're fighting to get out of the cantina.
I think there might have been a scene there I missed or something. But yeah, anyway, this is where she finally breaks down and finally tells them what went on. So, back when she first met Kang, she found out he had a ship that could travel the multiverse. He promised to take Janet home if she helped fix the ship's core, which was damaged. And actually, he even says, like, not only will he bring her back, but like if she wants, he can time travel and basically make it so that she never left to begin with. So after, they don't exactly say how long, but seemingly after years, they finally fixed the core. Oh, and also I was going to mention at the very beginning of the movie, like at some point they mentioned that Janet was down there for like 30 years, but they don't mention like where in that timeline, how long she was there before she met Kang. I mean, they didn't like de-age her or anything. So I was like, was this like 5 years before, she got out, or when exactly? I didn't know.
Well, it sounded like it must have been like she had some time because she was part of this rebellion for a number of years and had this relationship with Bill Murray.
Right. So maybe at least like 15.
I'm really like thinking she's like a terrible judge of character.
Maybe.
I mean, that was probably like earlier in her time there, though, because she hadn't joined the rebellion yet against Kang. So like all that stuff came later, right?
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Kang
So must have been
first.
So yeah. Anyway, after years, they finally are able to fix the core. But the ship is attached to Kang's thoughts, and I thought, I don't know if I necessarily know a way they could have done this better, but I did think this was like kind of like a very convenient way of like making her realize who he is and what he did or whatever. But anyway, she touches the ship and it allows her to see basically Kang's past. And we see that he's killed like, I don't know, maybe millions of people, like a lot of people. He's destroyed like entire planets and universes. And basically she finds out that he was banished. The reason he's in the quantum zone wasn't just because he like crashed. He was actually banished into the quantum zone.
Right, because every like multiverse has a version of him, and they all like ganged up and
basically
banished him to the quantum realm.
Yeah, like broke his core and sent him to the quantum zone, basically imprisoned him there. So Janet realizes like she can't outfight Kang, so she takes the Pym particles that enlarge things and basically enlarges the ship's core to a magnitude that makes it inoperable. Is that what you guys would say?
Yeah.
Question: how did she escape him here to even lead the rebellion?
They don't show that.
They don't show it.
She just enlarges it and runs.
I mean,
and
it seems like he could have easily stopped and killed her right there.
Well, he did stop her for a minute, right? Did she get away after that, I guess?
She must have gotten away. I don't think they really show what happened. I think they cut from there.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember.
So now we go to Scott in prison. MODOK shows up, and this is kind of where they have a conversation, and maybe this is where it actually shows MODOK's past, where he was put into the MODOK suit or whatever. But they don't talk too long before Kang shows up. And Kang's kind of a dick to MODOK. Like, he throws him against the wall, and he's like, "You'll be silent in my presence," or whatever. So Kang tells Scott he needs to help him to prevent what's coming, which he goes into more detail later on, but basically here he just alludes to the fact that it's like him, like alternate versions of him are going to cause like a lot of destruction if Scott doesn't help him succeed.
Well, this is like tied to the comics. It's I think it's a New Avenger story. It's kind of done differently here in this movie. In the New Avengers, it's the Beyonders, these beings from beyond this multiverse and or any multiverse, and they start causing universes to collide, and it starts with the Earth running into the Earth, and once they collide, then the whole universe, one of them, is destroyed. But in this situation, they're saying that Kang is the reason that these incursions are occurring, and eventually the whole universe implodes because of this.
Right. And didn't in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, wasn't that like something? Didn't they introduce the like incursions there? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, Scott refuses to help Kang until King, who couldn't see this happen. King just like threatens Cassie, and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it."
Yeah.
Now, because he basically like had the power just to like move them with his hands. Like, does he have like some sort of gravity altering gloves? They never really say. Like, they just like, Janet has a line where she's like, Kang had future technology and it allowed him to easily like take over the quantum zone, but they never really go into what exactly he has.
Yeah, I mean, when he landed there, all we saw him was with a suit and a ship. Like, I don't know where all that other stuff came from.
And like for the years they were together trying to fix the ship, like he never really displayed those powers or anything. Yeah. I don't know.
But then again, she hid her suit from him too. I think he was surprised when she like got small in front of him and took that quantum thing away from that battery or whatever.
Oh, that's true. So basically now King says he needs Scott to go to the very center of his ship's core and basically shrink it back down to size so that it'll work again. So yeah, Scott, like we mentioned earlier, he jumps, he's going through, and like again, it's like he somehow like avoids hitting any obstacles, and he just like he keeps having to like shrink down like smaller and smaller and smaller to get down to the core. He finally gets there, and he basically he splits in half. There's like another him, and then he starts doing it again and again, and I think Kang or MODOK says that like these are like alternate possible versions of himself. Now, why does this happen? Are we meant to believe because the core of his ship can travel to multiverses, it somehow is creating this?
Well, I think he's supposed to be down like on a quantum level, so he's getting like entanglement, and you're getting this like splitting of possibilities.
I think it had something to do with the engine, though. Like they said, it was like a probability storm, and I guess that has to do with the engine. I don't know.
You know what I thought was kind of lazy here, though, is like, so like he starts splitting, it's making all these Ant-Mans, and eventually there's the one that looks like him when he was working for Baskin Robbins. But I'm like, why is that the only variation that's different? Like, in all these variations, you're telling me there isn't like an Ant-Man with like a different colored suit, or there isn't an Ant-Man with maybe like a different like looking helmet, or just
nudist,
or nudist Ant-Man, or
what's up?
or it just seems like they could have gone a little. I mean, I suppose because of what they have to do here with the effects, like that would have made it much harder. But yeah, there's just like the one guy that's different, and then all the other ones are exact duplicate copies. So I'm like, I thought they could have been a little more creative there. But basically, yeah, he starts. There's just like a million Ant-Mans. He starts to get lost in a pile of himself. But then I guess, and they're kind of like also arguing about who's like the original. And like eventually, like he talks to Cassie on his like earpiece or whatever, and I guess they're like, oh, like he must be the one because she's talking to him, and like we'll help him because we all love Cassie or whatever. Is that what you guys got out of it?
Yeah, something. It was a way to get them all on the same page so they would work together.
And also like. Why were like some of them were like growing into Giant Man, but it was like instantly like killing them and like
apparently that strategy was instant death. One of them turned into noodles.
Yeah, for some reason. Anyway, they all kind of band together and created like a pyramid that puts him on top, and they lift him like almost to the center, and he shoots one of the Pym particles to the center, but like it malfunctions. It doesn't work for some reason. At the same time. Hank, Janet, and Hope showed up in the spaceship, and Hope, noticed on communications that Scott was in trouble, so she's also heading towards the center of the core, and she's starting to split into a million wasps. But basically, eventually, when Scott's the pyramid's about to fall, he's about to fall, she catches him, they both shoot Pym particles into the center, and they shrink it back down. So this part I had really questions about. I wrote, Kang needlessly betrays Scott and refuses to give Cassie back. But I'm like, why? Like, all he needs is the core. Like, why does he even care about, them at that point?
I didn't like that particular thing because I felt like they painted him where he could potentially be like a sympathetic kind of villain. Like he's doing bad things because he needs to. But then it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to betray you even though it's a pointless thing for me to do.
And also the thing is like, why did he even have to talk to him? Like he has those manipulating powers. It seems like he could honestly just like
taken it
easily.
Away.
Yeah. So while this is going on, Hank is back with the ship, but he is attacked by MODOK, because
MODOK's like, hey, remember me? Your protege.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He used to work for him or whatever.
Yeah.
So we see his ship go down in the background, and I didn't know if we were like supposed to think that maybe he was killed. I mean, I never felt like.
No, I didn't feel like he was dead.
How did he shake off MODOK? Because if MODOK was still there with him, the fight wouldn't have been over.
Well, I
don't
believe
remember why.
I believe I know the answer to that. I think you set it up in the beginning. Anyway, at that point, also Kang opens a portal and he takes Janet with him, so that then Scott and Wasp are left behind. So Kang explains to Janet that he is trying to prevent, like you were talking about, the incursions caused by the alternate versions of himself. Which, and it kind of leads to your thing to where, like, okay, he's kind of a sympathetic villain, because, like even though he's doing bad things, like, overall, like, he's trying to save the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, I didn't know exactly how it worked, like, why he has to kill so many people to, like... Because he's not just, like, killing the alternate versions of himself. He's, like, destroying certain worlds and stuff.
Well, I think he has to, like, destroy, like, all the universes except one to bring the timeline back together. So, like, he's going to be destroying entire universes.
Yeah, that's what he was saying anyway.
Okay, and so, like, if he just lets them go...
Then it's like all just
everything's gonna
shaking apart, or something.
Because I know she mentions at one point, like she's like, that would kill trillions or something, and he's like, I wish that mattered, or he says something along those lines.
Yeah, because like in his mind, they're gonna die no matter what.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
That's his thought. So Scott and Hope find out that Hank was saved. I believe this is what happens. He was saved by the ants.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, my brain kind of got fuzzy at this point too, where I'm like,
The ants were a huge, like, what do you call it, a MacGuffin? Like, they were like the big thing. They saved everything.
well, a MacGuffin is like a thing of perceived value that people are chasing to move the plot along. But
it's a Deus Ex Machina.
a Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex Machina. Yeah. So yeah, apparently when they all fell into this I thought was kind of just random and stupid. Apparently, when they all fell into the quantum zone, we got that scene, and we could see like the ants fell in at that point. But apparently, they fell through some like weird time tunnel. So, like, basically, they had been there for, I don't know, maybe like centuries.
I think they said like thousands of years.
Yeah, like 1,000 years in one day.
And they gained like all this knowledge and technology.
Yeah.
So they're like really advanced ants now or something. So now we see a scene where like Cassie's being like brought back to her cell by some guards, but she uses the Pym particles, one to like enlarge a guy, so he like busts his head into the ceiling, and like another guy she like shrinks down and like kicks him or something. She ends up breaking out the warrior woman that I don't know if we ever really got her name. We probably did. I can't recall. Kang like starts to make a speech to everybody. Like he has this big like Star Wars-y type blue hologram or whatever. But it's Cassie like is able to use like the technology and the prison or whatever to basically take over that broadcast, and she basically like does this speech to inspire the aliens to fight back.
Right. So, and they were kind of like forced in, I felt like, but yeah. So now you've got, in addition to the big fight, you have a rebellion on your hands.
Right. I'm probably forgetting some stuff because this is where all the like action picks up, and it's a lot. Scott grows into Giant Man and heads towards Kang. Kang throws up like this giant force field around the building he's in. So now, big action scenes. Scott, the Wasp, and the aliens start fighting Kang's men, both in the air. There's like, you know, ships and stuff that the Wasp is fighting, and on the ground where you got like the rebels and all like the blue face guys, all going at it. We get at the same time MODOK starts to chase and he's trying to kill Cassie. Kang ordered him to do that after she made her speech on the thing. Eventually she beats MODOK and like tells him that it's never too late to stop being a dick.
There's a little cheese in there.
Definitely.
And they took a minute to do that speech.
Yeah,
too.
I was like, do you need to do this?
He's like laid out on the ground and bleeding and shit. He's like, look at me, I'm such a dick. And they're like, oh, you can stop being a dick, it's never too late. And then he's like,
Yeah, I was like, do we really need this like redemption of MODOK in this movie?
I thought it was corny, but then he made that one joke at the very end, and I thought, okay, that was kind of funny.
So Wasp then at some point grows like giant, and she's holding Ant-Man, like, you know, I guess regular size Ant-Man, and she like throws him towards the force field, and then like he hits the button to grow into Giant Man, and like that momentum like is able to like break the force field
pretty much.
And I think he's got like a shield too, kind of. Also, like, you know, most of these movies, like, they go out of their way to like, you know, they never want to show that the heroes are like killing people. But Scott definitely killed some people.
Oh yeah.
like he's like breaking these buildings. He's like stepping his Giant Man on stuff and like throwing ships.
It's kind of like Samurai Jack. You have these anonymous kind of like blue-faced figures, and just like, are they robots? Are they people? And he steps on them, and you're like, well, I don't know.
I think they were people.
I didn't see any blood. I don't know.
Yeah, you never see any blood, so they're fine. They're fine.
Chidi was able to read their minds, so they got to be like some sort of organic creature. Right?
He can read robot mind. So now that pisses Kang off, and he drops down, and he starts just like killing a bunch of people, like just evaporating them, until finally he gets to Scott, Wasp, and Cassie. They end up fighting, but ultimately, like, Kang's able to beat them. Just when it looks like all is lost, the thing that probably should have happened from the very beginning, Hank shows up with an army of ants, and they basically just like are able to. Kang puts up like a force field around himself, but this is where MODOK redemption comes in. He comes in and is able to like kind of break that shield, and then the ants kind of come in and you would think kill Kang, but they don't. I guess they just beat the shit out of him.
Well, they drag him off, and then he shows up again later.
Like they messed up his technology, it looks like. So they did take that advantage away from him, I guess.
And then we get like MODOK's like death scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some joke about him saying, "Oh, I guess in the end I was an Avenger."
Yeah, at least I'll die an Avenger.
Right.
And that was
They
silly.
had this super awkward conversation before he dies.
There may be. I'm sure there's some things I'm missing. Like I think like the rebels are happy, and maybe like I don't know. They have the warrior woman probably thanks them or whatever. But anyway, it looks like all is won. They open a portal to go back home. Everybody gets through the portal except Scott, who notices that out of like the corner of his eye, Kang is like still alive, and like Kang prevents him from going through. And
well, no, he prevents Kang from going through. Kang tries to walk through the portal, and Scott sees him doing that, so he like shoots him. Or something.
is that what happens? Yeah. Okay.
And then Kang's like, "You should have just let me go through. You could have gone through too." You know?
Yeah, and basically Kang just like beats the shit out of him for like a solid minute or two. So I don't remember the order of events. Like, at one point, like Kang's getting the upper hand, and he's like, says like, "You can't win" or something, and he's like, "I don't need to win. I just need to make sure both of us lose" or something.
Yeah.
And then he puts like Pym particles on the ship's core again. Right?
Yeah.
Are these the shrinking kind?
Presumably, whatever happened the first time is going to happen again. I don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time, the Wasp comes back through the portal to help Scott. And she's like shooting Kang with like her Wasp lasers or whatever. And eventually, like, she shoots him into, I don't know if it's exactly the core or just like the wires attached to the core, but basically we see him basically shrunk into the thing.
Yeah, he gets shrunk in with it somehow.
And like presumably dead, but of course not dead. So then the portal closes, and then I don't know if you guys had this thought, but at the time I'm like, oh, are we now going to have like a thing where Scott and Wasp are trapped in the quantum zone?
Yeah, I thought that too.
But then like, they have a couple minutes together, and then it's like, oh, nope. The portal opens back up, and they're like, "Oh, we can go home." So the tension was taken out of that
because that's
quickly.
something Michael Douglas had done before, right? Like he somehow extracted the woman out.
Oh
before.
yeah, that's true. They got Hope out or Janet out of there.
Right? Yeah, it's been a like I said, I only watched Ant-Man and the Wasp one time. Well, and I don't remember exactly how they ended up getting her out.
Well, Cassie, at the beginning of this movie, when she shows that quantum thing, she said that it's like a map. She can locate people inside the quantum realm.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're meant to believe that aided in them doing that. It helped map the whole area or whatever.
Yeah.
So then we get the wrap up. Scott is happy again. We're getting his like inner monologue, and they're throwing a birthday party for Cassie. It's not really her birthday, but he's like, I want to make up for all the birthdays I missed. And like they have this joke where he goes back to his old Baskin Robbins, and his old boss is like, I haven't made one of these since the 90s, but I wanted to do you this solid, so he made a cake. But then in his inner monologue, he stops for a minute and he's like, oh no, but this Kang guy, he said that like if we stop him, like it's going to destroy the universe. Could that actually be true? Dun dun dun. Anyway, then they have the party, and it ends on a joke where he takes a bite of the cake and he's like, it's a shitty cake. So then there's two end credit stingers. The first one, we see 3 versions of Kang, which are like, is it Ramatut Kang?
Yeah, it looks like that.
Immortus Kang, I believe, and possibly gay Kang.
I don't know.
I was telling him, I thought, like, I wasn't for sure, but I was like, the way he talked, I was like, it sounded kind of flamboyant. I was like, maybe this is a gay. I mean, he has so many versions. A couple of them have to be gay, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure exactly what that version was.
You wear a glowing blue suit one time.
You know, I got to say, I don't really remember what their dialogue was. They talk for a little bit, and then they end up going into this arena, which is just like full of Kangs.
Yeah, all the Kangs.
Yeah. All the Kangs.
Well, he's like, they're like, you know, how many of us did you call? And he's like, I called all of us. And then they show the arena, and it's like full of Kangs just going wild.
Oops, all Kangs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wait through the lengthy amount of effects team credits, and we get the second stinger, which is Loki and Owen Wilson see a version of Kang. I said possibly in the Old West. That's kind of the vibe I got, that they were like at an Old West show or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, it seemed like 1800s, but also like when Kang comes on stage, he's got like that crazy Frederick Douglass hair.
Yeah.
I was like, I like that hair.
So basically, it was just like, hey kids, watch Loki season 2 coming up.
Yeah.
My favorite part was in our theater. A guy was, after that scene, a guy was like, "Fuck this movie."
He did not like the synergy happening there.
I was like, I wish he was in our theater when we waited through the end of Doctor Strange 2.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he loved that too. Was there anything else you guys could think of didn't hit that you kind of thought that might be fun to talk about?
I feel good.
Yeah, that's the major points for me. So you don't think MODOK's coming back later?
I mean, I gotta say, like, MODOK is like a pretty goofy villain. Like, I'm kind of glad that he's seemingly just like a one and done character. I mean, they have a multiverse, so of course they could bring him back if they wanted
like
to.
a version that doesn't look so crappy.
I was thinking, like, in the Loki show, Kang is like, you know, you can kill me, and then you got to deal with a bunch of other me's.
Right.
And then, like, in this one, it's the same thing, where he's like, well, if you kill me, you got to deal with a bunch of other me's. You know, we're going to come and destroy everything. So, similar proposition in that situation.
You know, it's all about like time manipulation too. Because I was thinking, like, and it's been a while since I watched Loki season 1, but I'm like, do we think, like, you know, time has passed since Loki season 1, or does it matter? Are they picking up exactly where they left off? I don't know.
Do you think it will come back to like Loki and female Loki have children?
Little inbred Habsburg babies.
That's where the alligator baby came from.
Maybe I should watch Loki season 1 again. It's definitely my favorite of those Marvel shows.
Yeah, I watched that the final episode like a couple times actually.
I mean, that was one of the probably the interesting episode, just introducing him as a character and like. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Does it? Because there's Loki, and then what's the female love interest in that show? Is it like Effie or something?
Sophie's?
Something like that. Isn't she the one that ultimately like kills that version of Kang, and that's supposedly like what sets everything off?
Yeah, she killed that main Kang or whatever, and then he'll be replaced by a bunch of other Kangs, and that's who they'll have to deal with. And I guess those Kangs are causing incursions too, so I don't know.
Oh, so he told me this last night, and I think he's probably right. Is like he's like what'll eventually happen is like all those other Kangs will, like the incursions will get really bad, and then they will eventually have to go like dig up this Kang to have him like help, like create an uneasy alliance to help save the day.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I'm just wondering, like, I kind of wish I remembered like the Marvel lineup that's in this phase because it's not like a super long phase. I think maybe like because we got the Marvels, and then I think are Fantastic Four going to be in this phase? I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
And then like it ends with like the what is it, the Kang Dynasty and like Secret Wars or something.
Yeah.
So you got to figure like I mean I'm guessing since you know Infinity War and Endgame made so much money, I think they'll follow kind of the same path where the first of those movies will probably end on some sort of big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Just to get people excited for the resolution. But also because they're introducing the Fantastic Four, and because in the comics, like, well, at least the second Secret War story, Doctor Doom played such a huge part. I gotta imagine like they're gonna follow suit and have Doctor Doom end up playing a pretty big role in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. There is some relation between, Kang's always had stories with the Fantastic Four in the first place, like,
Right.
And Doctor Doom's obviously tied to that, but also like there is some hint to that relationship between Kang and Doctor Doom that he might be his ancestor.
Yeah, that's what you're telling me, and that is actually an interesting hook. Like that mystery of like, could Kang be like Reed Richards' like father, ancestor in some way? I don't know.
Well, Reed Richards would be his like great because
Oh.
Kang's from like year 3000.
Oh, so Reed Richards would be like a descendant of
or an ancestor of Kang.
or okay, an ancestor of Kang. Yeah, that is interesting.
Also, they did mention at the end of the movie that they said they think that Kang is dead, and they talked about who killed him, and they did mention like the people who killed that Kang, they're gonna come out and learn about what we've done, and they're gonna undo all of our work, so we have to stop them. So like the Kangs are targeting the Avengers. It seems like.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I also thought it was interesting how like Kang talked about how like he's killed like umpteen dozen versions of the Avengers.
Yeah,
Thor's.
There's
and,
no way he beat Hulk and then he lost to Ant-Man this time. Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
That's true. If he's like easily like defeating like multiversal Thors and stuff, you would think Ant-Man would be a pretty big layup for him.
Yeah.
So there maybe is somewhat of a logic problem there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Kang should have been a lot more powerful than he was in this. I mean, he was powerful, but I mean, he should have been able to shoot a laser right through Scott's head. I mean,
Another thing we were talking about last night is like, why did they have to banish this king? Why couldn't they have just straight up killed him? I mean, they're all Kangs. Couldn't they have just easily like killed him?
Yeah, there must be some sort of rule behind that.
Is he like Kang Prime or something?
I mean, maybe they're all. I don't know. I hope they'll explain that. I hope there's something there.
Well, I guess he is like, because I mean they all kill a lot of people. It seems like, but he's the one known as Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like. I think I saw too that like they just delayed the Marvels, and now like it's speculation, but they say like the only Disney Plus shows that are for sure coming out this year is Secret Invasion and Loki season 2, whereas like I think before they had like maybe some other ones slated, but now they're like kind of up in the air of whether they'll actually come out or not.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to come up with Loki just because, like, the timeline, he's going to be part of this whole Kang thing.
Right. And I'm guessing they probably already got that one shot.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I'm probably that Wild West scene was taken from an episode of Loki that we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically just trying to stretch to an hour. I didn't know. If you guys... like, after this whole phase is over and the Kang story is told, like, what other big bads can they really use? I mean, I guess
people are big on Doctor Doom. People are clamoring for Doctor Doom, it seems like.
But do you think they would use like a whole like phase like and make like a a Thanos or Kang level story just with him, like as the overall villain.
I mean, Doom's been like Supreme Doom before. You know, he's been like had the power of the Beyonders before. So, like even in the Incursion storyline, in the one with the Beyonders, he's the one who figures out how to save some people in some part of the universe, and he siphons off some of the power from the Beyonders and uses it himself using the Molecule Man. But I mean, there could be a way that they tie him into this. Like, he's always looking for absolute power. Maybe he, like, shows up at the very end of this whole thing and, like, you know, takes some of whatever power Kang had or something like that. He could become, like, the big baddie after that. I don't know.
I know a lot of people throw out Galactus, too.
Galactus would be good.
I could see them doing something with him.
Yeah, there is talk of Galactus because of the Eternals movie. They said that the big threat that could be coming is like Galactus versus the Celestials.
Yeah, and there was that Celestial at the end of the Eternals was like, I'll be back for like Judgment or whatever. So they definitely, like, I could see them setting up something there. Yeah. But then it's like also like at some point they're gonna have to introduce the X-Men, and I don't know how they're gonna juggle that many characters. It seems like too much. Yeah,
that's a lot.
I am interested to see how they'll introduce the X-Men, but there's so many X-Men, just like they could be a universe all their own.
Yeah.
I kind of hope they keep the X-Men just to like the main X-Men, but I'm sure they won't. Like they'll eventually have to expand, but if they could just keep it to basically the ones that were on the cartoon show, except maybe Jubilee, like you probably don't need to. Well, guys, final voting round. What would you guys give Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantamania on a scale of 1 to 10?
I give it a 6 out of 10.
5.
I'm with you, 6 out of 10.
Okay.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Man, I am like, I do want one of these movies just to knock our socks off.
Yeah.
I like, fingers crossed for Guardians 3.
Yeah.
Guardians definitely one of the better Marvel franchises.
True. Yes.
It's our only hope.
I hope it's... Is it James Gunn's last Marvel movie?
Yeah.
He's done good work.
He has. I was just thinking, like, when we were watching trailers, like, we got, like... So, John Wick, of course, we'll have to review.
For sure.
Guardians 3, we'll have to
review. He shot a bunch of people. He had a dog. Oh, that was a great review. Thanks. He shot a lot of bullets in this movie.
Did you see how he shot those people? Like this way and that way?
Over the shoulder with a mirror.
Don't forget, like, the swords and knives.
The horse he used to kill somebody.
I gotta say, that was a silly moment. I was like, oh yeah, he can just reliably, like, make this horse, like, buck. And...
He's like a trainer or something. Like, how are you a pro with this horse?
Was it doing, like, that little dance on top of a guy or something?
Little dressage.
Yeah, dressage. It's like, this is embarrassing. Just kill me.
Finish me.
We could do Fast 10.
Oh man!
Although I still haven't seen Fast 9, so I might have to catch up.
Did we do the review for Fast 8? I think
we did Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. I think I watched like 1 or 2 of those movies. But it's strange to straight up look like one of those like those death race movies from like the 70s.
It really is.
It's just like everybody killing other cars, and then they all explode on impact.
It's ridiculous, man. Every movie they elevate to like a, you know, they go to space and stuff like that. It's crazy. But I think this last one, they seem like they're coming back down to Earth. It looks like. I don't know.
Well, it just takes place on Earth, I guess.
Fast and Furious 10 re-entry.
I know at one point you were like, when the trailer's playing, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have left that dynamite in my trunk. Because the things are just like exploding.
Dynamite, no. Don't bring dynamite to an explosion.
They have like one of those old Pintos where the bumper's made out of flint or whatever.
One bump and this baby's going up.
Well, the movie reviewing season has officially begun. We hope you guys will stick with us all through the year as we review various movies and television.
Hopefully some of them don't suck.
Hopefully some of them don't suck. That would be a good thing. But anyway, we thank you guys very, very much for listening and watching today. Please comment down below. Let us know what you thought of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantamania and what you're looking forward to this year. Go ahead and subscribe both to the YouTube channel and to the podcast on your podcast service of choice. And you can even come over and talk to us on Twitter. Guys, where can people find you on Twitter?
At a name for this too, and that's the number 2.
At unsolicited SUG.
And you can, of course, find me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that's going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Fuck this movie.